Hi there. Nice having you here with me once again. Today, we will be taking a look at some of the most insane military weapons ever developed and introduced into warfare. Weapons are tools of warfare or self defense that can be used to either ward off an attack or take another life. In fact, anything used to cause or inflict bodily harm or physical damage to another is a weapon and should be considered dangerous. Yet many nations have been in the business of developing weapons of warfare and mass destruction on a daily basis in order to defend the territorial integrity of their respective countries. If you can't imagine it, someone somewhere has tried to weaponize it. Humans have been trying to kill each other for as long as time began, and from that time, lots of weapons have been developed in outright silly ways in order to accomplish that goal. From lightning bolts to dolphins, here's a list of the most bizarre military weapons ever made. Let's get started. Eye-blinding rifle. This weapon won't kill you, it'll just blind you with its bedazzling laser beam. The phaser, or personnel halting and simulation response rifle, is essentially the equivalent of a gazillion laser pointers aimed at the eyes, designed to lead to only temporary blindness. The goal is to blind criminals or others who mean harm for long enough that they can be apprehended. However, the phaser has one problem. The United Nations banned blinding weapons in 1995, according to an addendum to the Geneva Convention. Pigeon projected missiles. Another project called Project Pigeon was an effort to create a pigeon-guided bomb. The birds were trained using B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning to hone in on a target shown on a screen, and then peck at it when they found it. The program was scrapped in 1944 and then revived in 1948 under the name Project Orcon, but eventually newer electronic guidance systems proved to be more valuable. An exhibit at the American History Museum in Washington, D.C. details the history of these avian instruments of war. Bat bombs. In World War II, the U.S. Marine Corps had an ambitious idea: train bats to be the kamikaze bombers that the military didn't want humans to be. A Pennsylvania dentist first proposed the idea, inspired by the bat-infested caves at Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. The idea? Load the bats with explosives and train the animals to use their echolocation to find targets. While the military used thousands of free-tailed bats in experiments, officials eventually scrapped the plan when the atomic bomb seemed more promising, Live Science previously reported. Chicken nuclear weapons. During the height of the Cold War, the British devised an 8-ton nuclear weapon called Blue Peacock, a massive nuclear mine to be placed in Germany that could be detonated if the Soviets decided to invade from the east. One problem: the ground gets really cold in winter, making it hard for all the equipment in the mine to work. So one outlandish proposal, along with wrapping the machinery in fiberglass pillows, was to wrap the nuke with chickens, who would have been encased in a shell and given enough food, water, and oxygen to survive for a week. The heat generated by the chickens could keep the project warm enough to function. Ultimately, the plan was scrapped because of the risk of nuclear fallout, according to the BBC. Hallucinogenic artillery rounds. Weapons don't always have to injure the body. Sometimes they can incapacitate the mind. In the 1950s, the Central Intelligence Agency investigated the use of psychoactive substances such as LSD under the agency's notorious MK Ultra project. One of the non-lethal weapons the CIA developed was the BZ bomb, a cluster bomb filled with the hallucinogen 3-quinoclidonyl benzylate. One Army recruit who underwent experiments with the substance described experiencing some bizarre dreams, as well as feeling restless, having trouble focusing, and suffering headaches. The plan was ultimately scrapped because BZ's effect on the psyche was not reliable, according to an article in the Quarterly Journal of the Harvard Sussex Program on CBW armament and arms limitation. Kill-proof human soldiers. One way to make deadlier fighting force is to create an invincible one. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency has long been working on projects to make soldiers unkillable, or more able to survive assaults, maintain endurance for long periods, and withstand extreme environmental challenges. One project called Inner Armor looked at the genetic adaptations that allow other species such as harbor seals and archaebacteria to travel for days without stopping, survive underwater with little oxygen, or recover from radioactive or chemical weapons without getting sick. The goal? Either manipulate neural pathways or give people special vitamins that could protect against such assaults. according to a 2007 presentation on the project. Big Babylon. Sometimes a weapon is outlandish, not because of its design, but due to its size. In the 1960s, a British inventor came up with a scheme for a truly monstrous, ground-mounted supergun. With a 512-foot long, 156-meter barrel, the gun was known as Big Babylon and was big enough to be seen from space. Though the plans never got off the ground in the 1960s, the inventor, Canadian Gerald Cole, eventually began working on its development for Saddam Hussein, then dictator of Iraq, in 1988, and made several prototypes. Ultimately, Bull's dream was to use the guns for launching satellites, and such behemoth guns would have been impractical in true warfare, given how large and immovable they were, the BBC reported. Flashlight gun. North Korean spies seemed to be caught in the James Bond era. When assassins from the country tried to kill the activist Park Sang-hak, the South Korean intelligence agency found a number of tiny Bondian weapons on the spies. Among the finds were 2 poison pens and a tiny flashlight with 3 tiny holes for bullets, CNN reported. Gay bombs. In 2005, the Pentagon confirmed that military leaders had once been interested in a chemical weapon that could make enemy troops sexually irresistible to each other, according to military.com. The Air Force Wright Lab received $7.5 million in 1994 to develop a weapon that could harness a hormone naturally present in the body in low quantities. When enemy soldiers breathed it in or absorbed it in their skin, the idea went, they would become irresistibly attracted to each other. Not surprisingly, many people found the idea offensive and impractical. Number 9. Invisibility cloaks. In 2016, the U.S. put out a call for proposals to create invisible uniforms, which would cloak wearers from all angles and in all terrains. It's not clear how far that project got, but the idea of cloaking an object to be invisible at certain wavelengths isn't that outlandish. In 2006, scientists showed it was possible to bend light around objects made of certain materials, known as metamaterials, effectively rendering them invisible at certain wavelengths. And in 2015, a scientist said he had invented a ceramic ultra-thin material that was invisible at many wavelengths, the Army Times reported. The idea of making something effectively invisible isn't totally new. Stealth bombers already use a special coating that makes them nearly invisible to radar and infrared and hard to see in the visible light spectrum. And that's it for now. We'll continue this on another episode. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.